To no one's surprise, the Mariners are going to try to do this the hard way. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Monday, October 20th, 2025. This is Tony Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And as always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon. It's called Control the Zone, and on there we talk Mariners, Seahawks, all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/control the zone. Link in the description. It's time for our Game 7 preview of the ALCS. Mariners versus Blue Jays tonight at Rogers Center. Either the Blue Jays will go to their first World Series in 32 years, or the Mariners will go to their first World Series ever. We'll talk about the pitching in this one, our keys to a Mariners win, all that good stuff. But let's start with some statistical cope. All right. So there have been 59 Game 7s in Major League Baseball history. Tonight will be the 60th. The home team is 30-29. They're essentially 500 in Game 7s, and they've lost 7 of the last 8. So history kind of favoring the Mariners in this one. And obviously the road team has essentially been king in this series. The Blue Jays only got their first home win of this series last night. The Mariners, of course, only won one game at home in Seattle. That was Game 5. It took them 3 games to be able to do that as well. The Mariners are also 3-0 in winner-take-all playoff games, including, of course, Game 5 against the Tigers in the ALDS just 10 days ago at this point, 9 days ago. Yeah.
Feels like a million years ago, but yeah.
For real.
10 days ago, only a week from last Friday.
I wonder how many years this playoff run has taken off of my life.
In the last 10 days, the Mariners have won a 15-inning game and been blown out a couple times, had a blowout win, and are playing in their first Game 7 in franchise history, trying to go to their first World Series in franchise history, and all of that has happened in the span of about 10 days.
Yeah, seeing like 2 of the greatest wins in franchise history. Like, emotions have been all over the place. I mean, last night I went to the ballpark thinking maybe I would see history. That didn't happen. And I'm just going to tell you guys right now, I'm staying home tonight. I'm switching up the vibes because my win streak at Bears playoff games has come to an end. And frankly, I'm just like, Blue Jays fans just won't leave you alone. Like, I just want to watch the game. I'm not talking. I'm not inviting any sort of energy, whatever, but you can just like tell, you can spot them from a mile away as soon as they start to make eye contact with you, that they have to say something to you. They have to ask you where you're from. They have to ask you a billion freaking questions about like, wait, you're actually from here? How does that even work? Why is your wife a Mariners fan and not a Blue Jays fan? I'm trying to watch the game, dog. I'm trying to watch the baseball game that's happening on the field right now, dude.
Also, mind your business.
Leave me alone. Like, go chirp some other. There were a million other Mariners fans there last night, like way more than in games 1 and 2. Go bother them. Don't bother me. I'm trying to watch the game. Anyway, so I'm staying home. I'm watching the game on my monitor here in privacy, and I'm going to enjoy that.
It's not really up to you if you're going to enjoy it or not.
I'm just going to enjoy the fact that I can just like, I can think, I can actually like hear the thoughts going on in my head.
I'll be watching tonight and I will not enjoy a second of it unless they get the 27th out by up by more than 1 run or one run or more. So yeah, that's my plan. I'm going to stress watch this and try to avoid being so nervous that I switch over to the Seahawks game for 5 minutes, because if you do that, you might miss like Gino's grand slam or something, and that's not worth doing. But it's going to be nerve-wracking, and it isn't helped by the fact that the Blue Jays have really outplayed the Mariners for all but 1 inning in the last 4 games.
Yeah.
So it's it's sure to be nerve-wracking. I don't have a good feel for this. History doesn't give you any guide, and obviously the Mariners are like the worst team ever at relying on what they've done recently, because this is the streakiest team we can remember, or at least I can remember, for a very long time. They look like the best team in baseball one night, and the next night they look like the worst team in baseball, and there's really no rhyme or reason to it. So it's you just kind of have to roll the dice and see what Mariner team you get tonight. And if the A team shows up, then the Mariners are going to the World Series. If it's anything less than the A team, it's probably going to be a difficult night. So it is what it is. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, that's the team that they have, and that's the team you get to root for. And we'll see if they can find a little bit of magic and bounce back one more time. At least one more
yes. Time. Yeah. So this series has ultimately proven what our analysis of the series, or of these two teams, was heading into the series, right? That like the Blue Jays are a very talented club. They're essentially built to beat your pitching staff and who your rotation specifically has been this year. But also your pitching is still talented enough to be able to neutralize them at times. And we've seen that even when it hasn't been necessarily pretty. Like they've held them to 1 run and 3 runs and 2 runs in 3 of these games. And that so happens to be the 3 games that you won, right? So that clearly is a big key to all of this. But, we've also seen the opposite of that, where the Blue Jays have just absolutely smoked you, in those 2 games in Seattle. And last night, even though they only scored 6 runs, which I mean is still a lot, but like compared to the other 2 games in Seattle, that isn't as much. They dominated that game offensively last night. So it's like we continue to see this series. And the balance of the series flip from one extreme end of the spectrum to the other, basically on a game-to-game basis. Like nothing has really been consistent in this series outside of games 3 and 4. Like, because even the way the Mariners won game 2 was a lot different than the way that they won game 1, right? So I don't know if anything that's happened in this series, other than those general things that I just listed, can really inform what's going to happen tonight.
Yeah.
Like, I have a hard time, like, even imagining how this could potentially go, other than, like, typical Mariners nonsense. Like, if they're going to win this game, it's probably going to be in, like, 23 innings, And if the Blue Jays win, it'll probably be, like, super easy, because, like 6-1 or something like that. Because, like, it's easy for other teams, but, like, for us, like, if we're going to win, like, it has to be the hardest thing imaginable.
Right. Leo Rivas is going to have to come in and get 3 big outs in the 23rd inning, up by 1. And he'll do it, because that's just kind of what happens. But yeah, like I said, you just kind of have to spin the wheel and see what version of the Mariners you get. If you get the A team, you can beat anybody in baseball, and you can beat them badly. If you get the B team, they have a shot. You get C or below, you're going to get destroyed. So it really is just kind of one of those things where this team has proven to be A, very streaky and unreliable, and B, very resilient and able to bounce back and get back up after they've been knocked down. So we'll see which side wins out tonight. But, anybody telling you they feel really good about this game are lying to you, because you cannot feel good about a game 7. Literally anything can happen. And so anybody walking around being like, oh, no, I'm not. No, the Mariners got this, or no, the Blue Jays are definitely going to win. No question about it. Like, they're lying to you, because you can't know that. You can't feel good about it. It's a game 7. Literally anything can happen, and it can alter the course of a franchise for years to come.
Yeah.
And that's what you put on the line last night, because you played perhaps your worst postseason game to date. And I'm counting the blowouts where you just got knocked around the park. No, you just sucked yesterday. And
yeah, it was bad. You did nothing well. Last night.
like it's one thing if the Blue Jays are just better than you and they're just hitting home runs and doubles and all. It's another thing when you leave the bases loaded multiple times, you have errors, you make base running mistakes, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
It's just another thing entirely. So we'll see. We shall see. Not falling behind early would be nice. I think the largest deficit overcome in this series has been 2 runs. And that was when the Mariners were up 2-0 after the first inning.
Yeah.
So you got to keep this one close and hope for the best, but we shall see. I'm sure we'll all be watching the game nervously with a lot of hope, and hopefully that hope isn't all gone by the third inning like it was yesterday.
All right, so let's talk about the pitching. That's obviously the biggest topic going into any Game 7, really, but especially this one. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Gametime. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. But actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees. Ugh. It takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you get. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. For instant reactions following every Mariners playoff game, be sure to tune in to the Mariners postcast with Anderson Hurst and Christopher Crawford, available on both the Locked On Mariners YouTube and podcast feeds. We were just talking about this before we got into segment 2. Tickets to go to the Seahawks game tonight right now, the cheapest ticket right now is $54 for a Monday night football game in Seattle for a 4-2 Seahawks team. Like, I asked this last night on Twitter, and obviously the Seahawks game starts like 2 hours after the Mariners game
7:00
starts. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like, is this going to be the least viewed Seahawks game ever in the Seattle area in Washington State?
I feel like it'll be the least viewed first half in a very long time.
Yeah.
And depending on the result of the Mariners game, it might be the least viewed, Seahawks game in a long time, since they were, getting blacked out in local markets because of lack of attendance. But yeah, I haven't seen ticket prices this low since like the very beginning of the Pete Carroll era. And that's kind of funny, but also
crazy,
kind of awesome. Because obviously there's a reason that those prices are so low for Monday. I think this is their only home primetime game, if I'm not mistaken. And tickets are the lowest they've been in 15 years. And that's because of the Mariners. So,
I think they have one more against the Rams on like a Thursday night or something like that. But yeah, like a Monday night game though.
Primetime games.
Sure.
Thursday games are trash. Anyways.
Thursday games are garbage.
Welcome to Locked On NFL.
That's right. Yeah. So, apparently they're also going to be showing Game 7 at Lumen Field at the Ticketmaster tailgate. So if you're going to the Seahawks game tonight, they will be showing it at the stadium. So,
sure.
All right. The pitching. So George Kirby is starting for the Mariners. Shane Bieber is starting for the Blue Jays. That matters, but not as much as you would probably think, because pretty much all hands on deck for both teams here, because game 1 of the World Series isn't until Friday. So you can get even more extreme with your pitching here than the Mariners did in game 5 against the Tigers, in theory. Mm-hmm. To me, I don't even care if George Kirby looks good. I'm not letting him face the Blue Jays lineup a second time. That's where I stand on this. How are you feeling about it?
George stays in until he gives up a hit. No. That's only a bit hyperbolic there. I think that somebody should be at least playing catch in the bullpen from the first pitch of the game to the last pitch of the game. They don't have to get hot, right? They don't have to, emergency get ready really quickly, but there should be movement in the bullpen, and it's going to be a crowded bullpen. Castillo's going to be down there tonight. Bryce will be down there tonight. Woo will be down there tonight. Pretty much everybody but Logan. And if this game goes 16 innings, you might see Logan, which I might honestly rather throw Leo Rivas against this team than Logan Gilbert, but like it's all hands on deck, like you said. So, I think there is, if you can jump out to like a 3-0 lead or something like that, and Kirby's gone 1-2-3 in the first 3 innings, you might start him in the fourth. But I think you have to have, guys ready to go and guys hot and ready to go. And I'm not really joking when I say there should be activity in the bullpen from the first pitch of the game until the last. Like it is, you should have 11 pitchers down there. And then obviously George is making the start, and they need to be ready to go at a moment's notice. So they need to be moving constantly and all that. So I don't really know exactly how aggressive you want to be in a somewhat neutral game, like where the score is within 1 or so. Then I think, Kirby going through the lineup once is probably ideal. And then you probably do something like, I don't know, Brash or Bizzardo to face 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Hopefully they go 1, 2, 3. And then for 4 through 9, you go to like Bryce Miller or Brian Wu or whatever. And then when the top of the order comes back up, now it's Matt Brash's turn. And you try and use your high leverage guys for 1, 2, 3, every time they come up. The first time, obviously George will have to handle it. But after that, you try and make it Bizzardo pitches to them, and then Brash pitches to them, and then Munoz pitches to them. You might have to use Spire. You might have to use Wu or Miller or Castillo, depending on how often they come up. But you got to be really quick here with your hook, and anytime you sense trouble, you got to be ready to pounce and take a guy out. And it's an unforgiving business, and just by the nature of the way this game is going to be played, Dan Wilson is going to have to make a lot of difficult decisions. And there are going to be some that people don't like. There's going to be some that people really like, and just try to understand that Dan doesn't really have a ton of options in terms of why do you use Brash in the 3rd? They need him in the 7th. And it's like, you don't know this was going to be a ball game in the 7th if you didn't use Brash in the 3rd, and so there's going to be a lot of second guessing, understandably. That's just how these things go. Unless it's a blowout, which if it is, it's probably going in the Blue Jays direction anyways. But you have to be aggressive with it. Again, there's going to be 11 guys down in that bullpen. Everybody but Logan should be down in that bullpen, getting ready to go pretty much the entire game. Hopefully, George can give you something that only one Mariner starter has given you in this series, and that is quality, length, and get through the lineup a couple times. And only Bryce Miller's been able to do that. Thankfully, because of the off days and because of the blowouts, which kind of allowed you to use Hancock and Luke Jackson and Caleb Ferguson and whatnot. Because of that, your bullpen is still in pretty good shape. Bizzardo will be fine. Brash will be fine. Munoz hasn't pitched in a couple days anyway, so you should probably be able to give you 2 innings if you need it and all that. So, and obviously, again, Bryce and Brian and Luis all down there should be able to give you some length. So it's all hands on deck, and I think if the game is close after Kirby's first trip through, you probably should make a change. If you have a little bit of a leash there, if you're up by 2 or 3, maybe you give them a hitter, hitter by hitter basis.
I don't like this matchup at all. Which is that's an evergreen statement for any of these guys going up against this particular lineup. So I just want to continue to switch up looks on this lineup. I don't want to give Vladdy a second look at George Kirby, even if George is rolling. I just don't want to do that.
I'm just saying that, like, I'm not there. There isn't a there is a scenario where I could be like, give George a second time through, or try to give George a second time through. That you're up by 3 or 4. Somebody should still be warming up, but like, just for way of an example, right? Let's say you're up 4-0 and Vladdy's facing him for the second time. Vladdy hits a single or whatever, and then Kirk also hits a single. It's like, okay, even though I'm up 4-0, I'm going to Gabe Spire to face Varsho. like stuff like that. But I don't foresee the Mariners jumping out to a big lead. It would be amazing if they did. So I think ultimately, it's Kirby one time through, and then it's, hopefully Kirby can go 9 up, 9 down, and then it's Bizzardo or Brash in the 4th for the top of the order, and then it's Castillo for 4 through 9, and then it's back to Brash for top of the order, and then it's Bryce Miller 4 through 9, and then it's Munoz, and let's get this thing done. But we'll have to see. Hopefully, again, the Mariners just don't fall into a big hole like they did last night, because at that point, it's very likely over.
The thing that I would say, though, is that it was definitely a very offensive environment last night. And they had plenty of chances last night. They could have easily come back in that game last night. So
they kind of got back into it a little bit with the missed chances, and then even mistakes.
So even if the Blue Jays do jump out to a lead, obviously it doesn't feel good, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily over, because again, especially with the turf and the way the ball bounces in that stadium, and the high walls and all that, there's some weird stuff that can happen in that stadium.
Sure, but when you get to the 7th inning and you're down by 4, and it's Varland and it's Gossman and it's Hoffman, it's one. And when you do get those opportunities, bases loaded, 1 out in back-to-back innings, you have to at least get a run. The game yesterday is significantly different if they just hit 2 sac flies, and it changes the entire complexion of the game. And who knows, maybe even the outcome of the game, and they just failed. And so when you get those opportunities tonight, and you're probably going to get opportunities like that once or twice tonight, you have to get a run. You don't necessarily have to hit the grand slam. It'd be incredible if you did, but you have to find a way to get at least one. Every single time you have an opportunity to score a run with an out, it needs to be automatic. Runs are going to be at a premium. The more you can score, the more pressure it puts on Schneider to make quick decisions, and the more he has to stretch out guys who aren't used to being stretched out and all that. It is just one of those things where it's runner on third, less than 2 outs, it has to be automatic. You have to find a way to score that run. And every time you fail, it's an absolute gut punch, and it might be the thing that keeps you from moving on. And we've seen the Mariners really suck with runners in scoring position and still score 6 runs and win a game. Literally just saw it happen a couple days ago. So it's not like you have to score that run, but you cannot leave that many guys on base, particularly early in this game. You have to set a tone. And you have to give Dan not so much easy decisions. There are no easy decisions in a game 7, but you do have to give Dan an opportunity to, have some calls that have some margin of error attached to them.
So I'm curious to see if the roof will be open tonight, because yesterday it was pouring down rain. Tonight it's clear, but it's cold. So we'll see if, because it's cold, they keep the roof closed. Obviously last time roof was open, Mariners hit very well in this ballpark, and Dalton Varsho had a rough time tracking the ball as well. I don't know if that was because of the skies or what, but yeah, so something to keep in mind there if the roof does wind up being open. All right, we're going to wrap up with our final thoughts on Game 7 in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, maybe our last game preview of the season. Hopefully not. Hopefully we got a few more in us here in the next week or so. But that all depends on what happens tonight, of course. Mariners playing in their first ever Game 7 against a Blue Jays team that has given them everything that they could possibly handle. But again, we've seen a lot of different outcomes and a lot of different ways that the Mariners have won, and a lot of different ways that the Blue Jays have won in this series. So it's hard to predict what's exactly going to happen tonight. Obviously, my like final key to this game, really, it's a very obvious one because it's who the Mariners have been all year long. You got to put the ball over the wall. This team is just not capable of stringing hits together. We know that their formula of winning ball games, it's the antithesis of the Blue Jays and how they win ball games and how they score runs and how they manufacture runs. You got to put the ball over the wall consistently. You're going to need a couple of home runs tonight, whether that comes from Cal, Julio, whoever. It doesn't matter. Just anyway, if it's Leo Rivas who almost hit one last night, like, great, cool. The other thing that I would say is
base running I've ever seen on that play.
Yeah, they have had a problem reading the balls that have gone to that high wall. On Polo's 3-run home run in game 2, Randy did not read that ball well at all either. He was just kind of like caught in between. Thankfully, the ball went over the wall and we didn't have to worry about it. But yeah, they haven't read that particularly well when it's gone to that left center field or right center field wall.
Center field,
yeah. So yeah, but you gotta hit home runs. The other thing that I would say here is that Victor Robles, so long as he's healthy, he needs to be in the lineup tonight. Not for hitting purposes, just for his defense. Now, Dom Canzone's defense didn't ultimately it wasn't a factor last night. It didn't
Still
lead
stinks.
to but you're just putting yourself at a disadvantage here because his quality of at bats definitely do not outweigh the defensive difference between him and Victor Robles.
I'll do you one better there. Anybody but Dom Canzone in right field tonight. Dude can't hit.
Sure. Yeah, he can't hit right now. He obviously can't play defense. Like it has.
At least Miles Mastroboni will give me some athleticism and a decent at bat. He'll work counts. He won't flail like a baby giraffe. And it's a bummer that this is how Canzone's season's going to come to an end. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Mariners win tonight and he goes off in the series and we're like, oh, Dom Canzone's amazing. But he's been your worst player, bar none, this entire playoff run.
Yeah, agreed.
And so Robles needs to be in there. And if Robles can't go for the full whatever, then Mastroboni should be playing ahead of Canzone even. So we'll see. Dan loves to stick with his guys, but this is a game 7. And so Leo Rivas has certainly earned more playing time than Canzone. So there's no reason to have Polo play second, and Robles and right when you can have Rivas at second and just take Canzone out of your lineup. But yeah, the Mariners are going to have to hit some bombs. They're going to have to hit some, 2-3-run homers. You just can't hit a couple solo shots and expect to win. So you still have to work counts. You still have to get on base. And it does feel like this game is going to require something that we haven't seen thus far, which to me would mean that Randy Arozarena needs to show up in this game. And I thought he actually had a pretty nice game yesterday.
He did. Yeah.
So hopefully that's a sign of things to come. We've kind of been waiting for playoff Randy. We've seen glimpses of it, mostly on the base paths, but it'd be great if you could show up and do what he's known to do in the past. That would be incredible timing. But yeah, you're going to have to, when you get a couple guys on base, you're going to have to slug a little bit. You're going to have to hit home runs. You're going to have to hit doubles into the gap. And yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. And I'd like to sit here and tell you that it's about the starting pitching because it usually is in game 7, but this is not that type of series. This is a series where it's all hands on deck. And if you get 9 clean outs from George Kirby, that's more than enough. And you kind of go from there. So it's going to come down to the home runs. You have to hit them. You have to, when the Blue Jays do some damage, you have to limit them to 1 run and move on. You have to triage things a little bit. And last night things got away from them. Gino made an error. And no, it wasn't on the slow roller. But Gino made the big error and did he make up for it later with the great diving play on Vladdy's? No, he didn't, because that never should have been that situation to begin with, but
sure.
Whatever.
Sure.
you have to stop the bleeding, right? You can't allow yourself to get down too much in this game. And so you have to hit home runs. obviously, and you have to play clean baseball out in the field and on the base paths. And that is not something the Mariners did last night. So they didn't really hit home runs either. I mean, they had the one, but yeah, and it's, we'll see. I know we don't really want to be thinking this way right now, but there's a high probability that tomorrow, or tonight rather, is the last time we see Luis Castillo in a Mariners uniform. It could be the last time we see Gino in a Mariners uniform, Polo and Naylor, like maybe even JP Crawford. We've talked about that a little bit, and we'll talk about
Randy.
that. Yeah. We'll talk about all that. Hopefully not on Tuesday or Wednesday. Hopefully we're previewing a World Series, but we'll see. If they do lose tonight, those conversations are going to start. And because of the energy and the momentum that this team has created, those are going to be some really heated, discussion points about who you bring back and who you let go and all that. So hopefully those are at least a week away. Well, I mean, if they go to the World Series, they'd be probably
like
2 weeks away
because
because they don't even start till Friday. But it is something worth remembering that, like, if things don't go well tonight, it's going to be a pretty new looking team next year, and we're going to have to discuss all that and what it means. So hopefully we could push that off for at least another 7 to 10 days. 7 to 10 days, but it is something to keep in mind, and it is something that's in the back of my mind that you might not get a shot like this again for a while. Maybe you get it next year, but it took them 49 seasons to get to Game 7 for the first time in their franchise. So, you don't want to miss this opportunity. You want to appreciate the run that you've been on. You don't want it to end. Like, there's just a whole lot of emotional factors working into play here. But
yeah.
When it comes to the game itself, they need to play clean baseball on defense and on the base paths, and they need to hit home runs.
I guess I'll wrap up on this. And it's a thought that I shared before the Astros series. You got bigger things you want to accomplish. The Blue Jays, they're in your way. They're a stepping stone to where you want to ultimately get to. Treat them as such. Handle business tonight. I want to talk about the World Series. All right, that is going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.